All right, guys, the NCAA tournament bracket is officially set. So let's break down the Midwest region. First off, we got the 1 seed Purdue. I'm going to go ahead and give them the win there because we can't preview that game. I don't think they're going to lose to a 16 seed again, but with Purdue, you never freaking know. So moving on to the 8-9 game here, really good matchup. Utah State at 27-6 versus TCU at 21-12. TCU, really tough schedule, have some really impressive wins. Let's talk about Utah State first. All right, 27-6. Mountain West kind of depends on what you think of the Mountain West here as far as what you think Utah State's going to do. All right, they've got wins over Boise State, New Mexico, and San Diego State, all tournament teams. As for TCU, all right, they have wins over Houston, really impressive there. Win over Baylor, really impressive. So that's what you're holding your hat on to if you're a TCU fan. You can beat Baylor and Houston. You can beat anybody, I promise. I'm going to go TCU here. I think they're too talented and too much depth compared to Utah State. Our Gonzaga and McNeese State, really interesting matchup here. All right, Gonzaga somehow getting a 5 seed. I didn't think they would. I thought they'd be closer to like an 8 or 7. One of the weaker Gonzaga teams of recent memory, in my opinion. Then you got McNeese State, coached by former LSU coach Will Wade, sitting at 30-3. Gonzaga, all right, 10-point loss to Purdue, 13-point loss to Uconn. Split with St. Mary's, and they do have a win over Kentucky. All right, so that Kentucky win means they can probably play with anybody because Kentucky's pretty freaking good. And then you have close losses to Purdue and Uconn. As for McNeese State, they have beaten VCU. All right, that's a good win there. A 21-point win over UAB, which is a tournament team. Then a win over Michigan. So I think this game is actually going to be pretty close. I don't like the matchup for Gonzaga. I think Gonzaga is ultimately too talented, though. Nimhard for Gonzaga, formerly from Creighton. I think he's too good. They beat McNeese State. All right, Kansas and Samford. Kansas, this is going to depend on how healthy is Kansas. Is Kevin McCullough and Hunter Dickinson back or not? If not, even if they are, they could lose this game. So looking at Kansas's resume, they've kind of been downhill as of late once they got to the Big 12, but really before the Big 12 is what I want to focus on. Right? They've had some really impressive wins, in particular a win over Tennessee, which is kind of what they're holding their hat on to. Also, they beat Houston, beat Baylor. So you've beaten Tennessee and Houston. You can beat anybody. And then for Samford, all right, you've got a 50-point loss to Purdue, which is not too good. Okay. And then a 10-point loss to VCU. That loss to Purdue kind of tells you all you need to know about this matchup, probably. With or without Kevin McCullough and Hunter Dickinson, give me Kansas. All right, next up, South Carolina and Oregon. All right, South Carolina, kind of a slept-on year. Not slept on, but well under-talked about, I guess, the way I would phrase it. 26-7 versus Oregon, 23-11. Oregon had to win the Pac-12 to get in. They did. All right, as for South Carolina, you've got a win over Kentucky, win over Tennessee. And then for Oregon, you've got a single-digit loss to Alabama. All right, single-digit loss to Arizona. Then you've got that win over Colorado and Arizona in the tournament. I think Oregon's probably going to be too much here. Give me Oregon. All right, Creighton, Akron. Creighton I'm very high on. I had them on preseason Final Four. Baylor Shireman, Cogbrenner, Trey Alexander are pretty impressive to watch. They made that run last year to the Elite Eight. As for Creighton, they have wins over Alabama. All right, they have win over Uconn, win over Marquette, meaning they can play with anyone. As for Akron, you've got a single-digit loss to Utah State. We just talked about them earlier. You've got a loss to James Madison, tournament team. 1-point loss to St. Bonaventure, which was almost made it into the tournament, actually out of the A-10. Then UNLV, similar, pretty close to making it out of the Mountain West. I think Creighton's going to be too much here, though. I'm very high on Creighton. Like I said, I think they get the win. All right, then we've got Texas versus the winner of Virginia and Colorado State. All right, so this matchup is going to depend on two things. All right, Texas, I think, can beat Virginia. Texas, though, I think loses to Colorado State. So who wins the play-in game is the question here. All right, Virginia versus Colorado State. Virginia has only had 1 game that was a single-digit loss. Every other game they lost 10 games, was a double-digit loss. As for Colorado State, they played a tougher non-con. I can't believe they're in the play-in game, to be honest with you. I think Colorado State destroys Virginia, and then they beat Texas as well. Texas, very talented. Dylan DeSue, probably an All-American candidate, one of the best players in the country for Texas, but just doesn't have a lot of help, and Rodney Terry hasn't done a great job there. All right, Tennessee and St. Peter's. We've seen St. Peter's go on a run before. I don't think it's going to happen this year, though. Tennessee with I do, and Net are too much, I think. Tennessee, close loss to Purdue, close loss to Kansas, win over Alabama, Auburn, and Kentucky. As for St. Peter's, you've got a loss to Seton Hall and Duquesne. So I think Tennessee's ultimately too much here. All right, moving back to the top, Purdue and TCU. TCU is talented enough to play with Purdue. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a similar situation to when TCU upset Arizona a few years back, or was that last year? I can't remember. Wouldn't be surprised if that happens. Purdue, though, I think is better than they were last year. They played a really tough non-conference. They beat Arizona. I think Purdue is improved from last year, and I think they're too much ultimately for TCU. All right, Gonzaga and Kansas. You've got a battle between two teams that it's probably their weakest teams, like I said, between the two of recent memory. This one's going to come down to if McCullough and Dickinson play. If they play, I think they beat Gonzaga. If not, give me Gonzaga, but I think they're going to be playing, so give me Kansas. All right, Oregon and Creighton. Oregon getting hot at the right time, winning the Pac-12 championship, but I think they meet a buzzsaw in Creighton. Creighton ultimately is pretty good, I think, so give me Creighton here. All right, then we've got Tennessee versus Colorado State. I think Tennessee plays too good a defense to get beat by Colorado State, so give me Tennessee in that one. Sets up a Purdue-Kansas matchup, Hunter Dickinson versus Zach Edey. I think ultimately, though, Purdue's probably going to be too much here. Despite Kansas having some impressive non-conference wins, I think Purdue's ultimately the winner. All right, then Creighton versus Tennessee. Really good matchup here, offense versus defense. I think Creighton is better than Tennessee. Creighton's three best players are really good. Shireman, Alexander, and Cogbrenner. Tennessee, you've got Net and I don't know why I can't say that name now. But Creighton, though, I think gets the victory here. All right, so you set up Zach Edey versus Creighton and Ryan Cogbrenner. I think Creighton is the better team here. Trey Alexander, despite Zach Edey being really impressive, Trey Alexander is a baller. Give me Creighton here heading to the Final Four out of the Midwest. But who do you think makes it out of the Midwest? Let me know your team that you think is making the Final Four out of this region. Also, I am hosting a bracket group on ESPN. To join that, look below. You'll see all this down here. Pretty much all you got to do is go to my channel, go to the community tab. You'll find the link on there. Join it. 1 entry per user. If you get first place in the bracket group, you get a free AG t-shirt. Only thing is you got to be a subscriber to the YouTube channel. That's it. But link for that is in the community tab on my channel. But again, let me know your Final Four. Who makes it out of the Midwest? Let me know. Comment down below. Make sure to like this video. Most importantly, subscribe.